Are we ready to go then, Sam?
Good afternoon, IMAA members. Welcome to our Insights and Innovation session for this Halloween Monday. Today we have the amazing Adam Forbes with us from Channel 7. He's the new man running the indie section over there and is going to do some wonderful things. Today he's going to give us a bit of an update on 2023, but not a rerun of what happened in the upfront. This is more around the different ways to tap into audiences with a bit more of a focus on indies and what kind of means to indies and what the opportunities lie for indies. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Adam. If there's any questions, we'll hold them to the end and go from there. Over to you, mate.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for everyone who's joined on Melbourne Cup Eve and also Halloween. I can't see everyone on the call, but this face has been known to scare children, so this is my Halloween mask for the day. Just quickly, what we're going to talk about and what I sent out on the flyer is an unrivaled suite of content is only as good or as valuable as the access you provide for your clients. So without going into too much detail as to how we're structuring the direct and indies team until the end, which Sam mentioned, the one thing I will say is that my team are now geared up to be a fully converged sales team across metro, regional television, as well as our BVOD slate. And as we move closer and closer to the critical timeline of VOZ, I wanted to talk about how you can access some of the content you would have seen in the upfronts, and how we're trying to structure our team to best allow you to do that. So I want to take you through just a really brief overview of some of the content that we saw in the upfronts that's relevant for this discussion today. The change in identity of BVOD, where we kind of see it at the moment, how is Seven structuring itself to maximise that for our clients and our agencies. Overview on VOZ and connected TV and our lens on the world, and then just a really brief overview of some innovation that might be of interest to some of you. Okay, so just a real quick overview of some of the content you may have seen. I hope everyone did get the opportunity to see the content from our upfronts. If you didn't, there is going to be a link to the content, so I can provide that, and anyone who wants to see that doesn't have it can email me, so I'm happy to take you through it. So 2023, this is probably one of the slides that is more important to certainly the independent agency space. We talk about Seven reaches more people across Australia. We now have a truly national platform of metro and regional combined, plus our digital offering. And you will see New Zealand there off to the side as well. A part of my remit is helping independent agencies that want to invest into New Zealand with having that arrow in their quiver as well. But the scale of hitting so many Australians is across not just one platform, not just linear TV. So I wanted to talk about some of the ways we might be able to engage on a deeper level, and most importantly by talking to one person at Seven. And that's certainly our mandate, and something when I first caught up with Sam when I took on the new role, I said, Sam, what do independent agencies want? So if anyone disagrees with this, blame Sam, not Adam. But what do independent agencies really want? He said they want less people that can do more for their business. And that's basically how we're structuring the team, to be across one contact across all platforms that you can engage with. Okay, so some of the content we saw in the upfront presentation, new content coming, blow up. I think this was Sam's comment was it is Lego with balloons. Unashamedly, it is to a degree, and that's probably one to watch. Australian Idol, we've had a lot of feedback about the judging panel, particularly around Kyle. Yes, he will bring an element of star factor, as will everyone else on the panel, but that will certainly be a winner. I think the Claremont murders could be quite thrilling viewing. what I love about the presentation this year is we didn't pin all our hopes on one tentpole property. There's a really good mix of new content coming through in the 1% Club. $1 Million Island looks fantastic as well. That's one to watch, and also existing proven content, but not just one genre, and certainly not just one or two tentpoles that we're hanging our hat on. This is that returning favourites that we all know and love. Yes, My Kitchen Rules is in there. SAS will be returning. Farmer Wants a Wife will also be returning. Resonates really well with our regional audiences. Farmer Wants a Wife, as does Royal Flying Doctor Service, which is not surprising, and a number of other returning favourites. One thing that they pushed really hard through the upfronts, which I hope everyone remembers the number, was our news service and the strength of our news service, particularly now that Seven has acquired the strength of the local news service with Prime, delivering more than 300,000 viewers every night compared to our nearest competitor. So there's the programming slate for 2023. That's pretty much all in terms of rehashing the upfronts, except to say this is the slate that we want to talk about how we access, and not just access through linear TV, but how do we potentially access that in other ways by following the eyeballs. The first part of that is we've got a whole new channel. So another channel in 7 Bravo, which is not only going to provide more content and more inventory from a linear TV perspective, but also it's going to be certainly some female skewed streaming content on 7 Plus. That we're going to talk more and more about how we look to use VOZ and BVOD differently in 2023 as that starts to become a more entrenched part of our trading vernacular. Okay, and that Bravo will provide us with 2,000 hours a year of premium first run content, exclusive and free for Australians. I suppose this is the new ecosystem that we're talking about. It's not that it's not that dissimilar, certainly from a 7.2, 7.8, and 7 Flicks perspective. And you've seen the updates of what's to come on our primary channel. But having Bravo there basically gives us another channel of content in a world where we're finding more and more clients asking for access. We need access to your content. The one thing that that I'll say is it brings another demographic set in terms of going after those females that are interested in that content. I have had a few questions as to what will be the slate in terms of how it will be structured from a commercial content perspective. It will be the same as 7.2 and 7.8 in the sense of the same break structure and break format that you see on 8 and 2. We're not looking to break that down to a sub-market perspective for regional. At this stage, will be an aggregate purchase only, and I'd say that will continue. Okay, so I want to talk about the change in identity of BVOD, because if we think back, 5 or 6 years ago, BVOD did have a stigma that it was a catch-up service, and that it was for people that wanted to catch up on their linear TV broadcast. And I think we'd certainly all agree that that's not the case anymore. And it's important that we're educating clients to remove that stigma that it certainly is not a catch-up service anymore. It's so much more. And I just want to talk to that for a little bit. So viewer demands have certainly evolved. What we have seen, and you see the Bravo partnership that I just spoke about a minute ago, the supply of video content across every platform has grown exponentially, and that's driving higher consumption as well. So we're seeing people consume more content than they ever have, and it's more purposeful and it's more personalised. If you have an interest, if you're an avid archer or a sailor, or whatever it may be, you can certainly find content that fits your niche out there. The generation is that change is driving key trends in the way the video market is being consumed, and up to 50% of the total population are now digital natives. And the one thing I will say, and this is certainly something that 7 and 7+ have worked extremely hard on, is there is zero tolerance for a poor experience in the end-to-end consumption process. So consumers are very impatient. If they have a poor experience, they'll certainly move on from that platform. And that's why, as a broadcaster, having premium, high-quality, safe content is really important and at the core of everything that 7+ does. So if we think about the old world, and I know I'm one of the old world people, so I can speak openly to this. You know, this was once upon a time, it was 7, 9, and 10. And then we introduced the multi-channels with now Bravo in the mix. And then the real game changer has certainly been in the last couple of years as 7+ and 9 now and 10 play have come into the mix. And this is important because I'm about to talk about, well, how are we changing? How are we evolving to move with the evolving times, which that was the start of it. But certainly, you know, more and more content being live and free to Australians on 7+ is a part of our remit. So how are we also making that something that as agencies you can access for your clients? Okay, so if we think about connected TV, and I know there's some people that may have seen certain elements of this presentation, but if we go back to 2015, about 30% of the TVs in Australia were connected. In 2021, that sits at about 66%. Now, when I went around with Alex Tansley, who's our head of convergence, and met with some agencies, particularly in the Melbourne market, as I was trying to get to know more and more of the market, he would say, well, you know, you can't even buy a connected TV in this country anymore, which is why we're projecting forward to 2027, 90% of televisions in households will be a connected TV. Now, I always like to challenge or pressure test someone who makes a bold statement like that. So I did take Alex down to cash converters in an attempt to purchase a rear projection, old, non-digital, non-connected TV. And as a fun fact, no one in the cash converters do not carry TVs anymore. They don't sell them because no one wants an old TV. They're that cheap and they are all connected. Okay, so what does that kind of mean in terms of you know, having connected TVs? What we're seeing when I'm presenting to agencies at the moment is, particularly when you're sitting in a room of you know, 30s and unders, probably 40% of the room doesn't have a linear TV signal into their TV set anymore. And you know what, we talk a lot, and I know some of you are talking to my team about audience shortfalls, and the fact that, you know, TV audiences are eroding. And I'm saying, well, they're not necessarily eroding. They're actually migrating. If you buy a TV today and you pull it out of the box and put it on the wall and turn it on, the first thing the TV says to you is, please connect me to Wi-Fi. And if you hit that button and connect it to your Wi-Fi, your TV's live and you never need to plug the aerial in. And we're seeing more and more of that behaviour. And I guess I pose the question is, what is the difference between a person sitting there watching Australian Idol live on a linear TV compared to someone sitting there watching Australian Idol live on a connected TV? And the answer to that question is, the difference is, if you're not buying that audience in a converged manner from an advertising perspective, you're missing a high portion of the audience watching that show right there and right then. So the world is moving on from just being that linear signal. And you know, the new apartment buildings now, particularly around Sydney and metropolitan Melbourne, don't have the capacity to take aerials. So there is an expectation that everyone has a connected TV and they access the content they want to watch through Wi-Fi. So that kind of brings us to, well, how are Seven approaching that area. How are Seven approaching the converged, what we call the converged trading model? There's a couple of guiding principles before we go into exactly how we're making sure clients can access our content, and that is we need to bring together the benefits of each model without diluting the power that each brings to the table. And what I mean by that is linear TV has always been and continues to be the best way to really quickly buy reach and to access mass reach at scale. On the other hand, you've got the BVOD, the BVOD commodity, which audiences are certainly growing, but it also brings to the table a much more targeted approach than we've ever seen with linear TV. So we need to be really conscious that when we're thinking about a converged model and how we access audiences, that we deliver effective reach at scale, which does help us reverse that inflationary pressure that we've spoken about because of eroding eyeballs, and we need to start to think about how we might differently approach that model. What we try to do in terms of the way we're approaching a converged sell or trading across different platforms is making sure there's an enhanced return on investment, and we're targeting the key brand metrics. Also, foremost is that any trade model that we have, and we are working on the future of Code 7, but we're already trading in a converged manner with a number of clients, is that there is an ease of trade across both the planning, the buying and measurement. Bringing a new shiny way of connecting to our audiences to the table and making something that took 1 hour now take 5 hours, that just doesn't work for anyone. So we are very focused on making sure in our trading platforms that there is an ease of trading across the buying, the planning, and the post-analysis measurement side of what we do. Okay, so the first question is, can BVOD drive incremental reach? And the answer to that question is definitely yes, it absolutely can. If you and what we did, this is a part of our converged approach when we started to test and learn, is we took a 100 TARP campaign and we shifted, so we didn't invest incrementally, but we shifted 25% of the audience that you were buying a 100 TARP campaign over to our BVOD product, just to test, does it really grow reach? And the answer was yes. On the People 25-54 campaign, and we ran this across a number of test scenarios, we found that on average it did deliver an incremental reach of plus 17% compared to just purchasing that campaign on linear TV. I will really clearly articulate that was 25% of the audience, not 25% of the budget. So what that looks like depends on the demographic you're working with. But in this case, it was 25-54. Okay, frozen for 1 sec. Okay, here we go. So second part of the question is, can BVOD drive incremental reach? And in this particular scenario, we did exactly the same thing. We took a number of 25-54 campaigns, rather than shifting 25% of the audience out to see what the effect was. We put 25% of the audience on top of the 100 TARP campaign. And what we found is that delivers a plus 27% incremental reach compared to just that standalone 100 TARP linear TV only campaign. That was about a 3.5 incremental reach versus adding that, it's 3.5% incremental reach by adding BVOD on top rather than adding 25% more to your linear TV campaign. So this is kind of how that looks. And if you look at what we thought is, okay, well, we've taken a 100 TARP campaign here, and that's a pretty substandard campaign. Let's pressure test that and see if we could reach those same audiences by purchasing more linear TV as opposed to shifting that audience over to our BVOD platform. So if you look at the first example, which is the 100 tarps, we spoke about that delivered 20%, 7% incremental reach by shifting 25% BVOD on top. Then when we go to a 200 tarp campaign, we still delivered incremental reach. So the incrementality has reduced slightly, but that's to be expected as you increase the tarp levels. But all the way up to a 500 tarp campaign, and there's probably not a great deal of clients out there buying 500 tarp campaigns anymore across a shortened period. What we found is that by adding 25% of the audience on top from a BVOD perspective, delivered a 22% incrementality in terms of reach. Okay. Then we started to look, okay, well, we've tested that on people 25-54. Is that true across a number of demographics? And we did look at the same model across women, 25-54, people 18-39, of which we saw a higher level of incrementality delivered by adding 25% BVOD on top. That's not something we didn't expect, because naturally BVOD viewers or digital natives tend to have a slightly younger skew. And then we also thought, okay, well, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Are we still having a degree of incrementality in some of the older demographics? And if you look at people 40 plus at the very right hand side of the scale there, the answer is yes. We were still able to deliver incremental reach by adding 25% BVOD on top. So that kind of poses the question: is what is the right level? What is the right amount to shift over from a BVOD perspective? What I will say is that does depend on the demographic you're looking at. I would argue that if you're buying younger demographics, you should perhaps shift slightly more of your audience over to our BVOD product. And I would also argue that there is still a case, as you saw on that last slide, for the older demographics to shift some over, but you should probably not shift as much. But the blunt optimal rule that we found is it's about 30% is the optimal allocation, shifting your audience over to BVOD before you start to see a decline in the incrementality that shift of audience over to BVOD is providing. So that's kind of where we're what we're saying to the market in terms of a converged approach and working across multiple platforms. The one thing I will say is going from nothing to something is going to yield a better result. So even if it's going from 0 to a 10% or a 15% of the audience shifted over to BVOD as a starting point for your test and learn, then that's going to be better than doing nothing at all. And then, as I said, we start to see that sweet spot around about the 25 to 35%. And you can also see on that graph what it starts to do to the cost per reach point. That's where you're bringing down the cost per reach point. People often ask, well, why does it bring down that cost per reach point? What is different? So we started to look at the duplication, because obviously that's one of the benefits of VOZ, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a minute, is that it does dedupe the audiences or allows us to see if there is any duplication of reach across the two. And this graph probably provides the best insight into moving from nothing to something yields the best result. And what we've seen is duplication across linear TV for those viewing on BVOD is only around about 8% on average. Excuse me. And what that says to us is they are structurally different audiences. A vast majority of the people watching live TV on BVOD are not accessing live TV through the linear TV signal anymore. In fact, there's a huge proportion of people out there that don't have their TV connected via the aerial anymore. And those traditionalists that are watching through linear TV, through the linear TV platform and through their aerial, a vast majority of them aren't necessarily accessing the BVOD component via their connected TV, and that's probably some of the potentially some of the older demographics. But people are usually watching in one or the other way, and they are structurally different audiences, which means we're not seeing that duplication which you would expect. I think if we go back 6 or 7 years, if you missed an episode of The Voice because you're out for dinner with friends, people were coming home and potentially using the BVOD platform as a catch-up service. We're seeing that less and less now, and people are watching in their one unique way, which is why we're seeing that level of reach incrementality. Okay, so the results are that versus linear TV only, campaign of the same size, we're seeing about 18% incremental reach. In the people 25-39 subsegment, we're seeing about 32% incremental reach. But the main, and this is on a test case we did, the main point is that it's actually bringing down the cost of buying reach on TV. And that's one of the fundamental things that I hear from agencies all the time, is because of declining, or as I like to say, migrating eyeballs. Yes, there are some declining off to other platforms, and that's been happening for a while, but a lot of our eyeballs are migrating over to watching live TV or watching other content that 7plus has to offer via their connected TV or via other devices. And by tapping into those audiences, we're bringing down the cost per reach point by, on average, 21%. And that depends on your demographic and your campaign. There's some of the results we've seen. So I just want to touch on what that total TV approach delivers, but also I suppose now is probably a good time to talk to why now. Why are we talking about this more and more now, and why are Seven having a conversation around converged trading, probably at a higher level than we have ever before? One is that audiences will continue to migrate across to 7plus, and we are empowering the market, particularly as we start to come out of COVID, and we're seeing a normalization of viewing habits. People are going back to the office and back to work. We're seeing that we're having audience shortfall discussions in the market, and I am saying to the market, we need to be making sure that our money and our investment is following those eyeballs as they migrate over. That's one point. And the other point is certainly where we're at with VOZ. VOZ has been around for a couple of years. Occasionally I get asked, when is VOZ going to launch? Or it launched a couple of years ago. Probably the one step in the equation that wasn't there before is the ability for agencies to be able to analyze and measure and use VOZ in a meaningful way. And we're now getting to the inflection point where we can do that. As a network, we can do that. We can post-analyze campaigns with VOZ data included. TV Map Analyzer tool is now available. So for those agencies that do have TV Map, that is similar to the way ETM measures and post-analyzes TV ratings. That tool is now there. And ETM's equivalent tool will probably be available around about the end of this year. Probably the linchpin that brings it all together will be VOZ 5.0, which is going to be made available around about January. Probably it's possibly likely it might be pushed back to February. But what that means is that we can we can all start to use VOZ data as a currency in a much more meaningful way. I will be very clear that it's not there to replace existing currencies. It's there as a point that VOZ can be used in day-to-day trading when we're looking at examples or looking at campaigns similar to some of the examples I showed you a minute ago, where we're starting to think about how we don't trade in silos, how we trade in a converged manner across all the all the eyeballs that the Seven platform can deliver, and hence why it's quite timely that We're launching another linear TV channel in Bravo, which will also be a part of our BVOD platform, which will also have 2,000 plus hours of available content for people to stream live and free, or on demand and free, I should say. So what does this total TV approach deliver? It does deliver guaranteed incremental reach, and it does push out that reach ceiling by accessing BVOD viewers, because there are people that are viewing TV, both linear and on demand, only on a connected TV and no longer through the linear TV antenna. It also helps us reset the point of diminishing returns. I don't know how many times, particularly in my past life, when working in regional TV, particularly in northern New South Wales, I don't know how many times I had the conversation around it's becoming more and more difficult to buy reach in northern New South Wales. So it's quite rewarding to think that we can access those audiences and we can tap into new eyeballs and build reach across our BVOD platform, and even by buying the same content, live TV streamed on 7plus, brings to new audiences to the table, and at very, very low points of duplication. I will say it also provides a more balanced reach outcome when you're thinking about something like a 25-54 demographic. If you're buying that on from a linear TV perspective, you could possibly argue that the ratio of 25 to 54s might be slightly towards the older end of that demographic. So by including BVOD, which does inherently skew slightly younger in some examples, that allows you to bring a more balanced reach for your client to the table. There's a cost benefit. We all love to talk about cost savings. There is a significant cost benefit on the cost per reach point by adding BVOD to the mix. And it can be more targeted and engaging content. As I mentioned earlier, we're not trying to change the way we use the two platforms. Linear TV will continue to be a high reach building platform that delivers exactly that, mass reach. And our BVOD product will complement that by pushing out the point of diminishing returns and providing a level of incrementality, but also doing it in a more target and more engaged way. And that kind of leads me into the next part. Is I just want to talk a little bit about some innovation pieces, and I'm going to show you some examples of what we've done, just to show how that BVOD platform can be used in a different way to complement your linear TV campaign. The first part is, let's not forget that we've got premium data sets that are now available. Not only can we work with you on your data and onboarding that, but we've also got our own data sets through our investment in Flybuys and Equifax and Ticketek and Weatherzone and also Car Expert. How can we have a campaign that not only delivers a level of incrementality, but also allows you to get more targeted in your approach, certainly on the BVOD side of our business, delivering both mass reach and also targeting. So this is excuse me. This is an example that we've got here for Thrifty, that we had across both TV and our BVOD platform. So if you look at we had content across linear TV, but also streamed on connected TVs, impactful 30-second or 45-second creative, and the viewer can then engage with that creative through our 7-act platform with a 15-second end frame that we're able to tack onto the normal creative. That provides the window for viewers to use our little friend here to start to engage with your content via the QR code, and the viewer then connects with your brand and is able to take action, and that can be done across both our linear broadcast, or also on our BVOD product on connected TVs. And that's when we really start the rubber really starts to hit the road in terms of having the consumer in control of the storytelling and starting to engage with your product on the biggest screen in the home. And they can do this through their connected TV. So viewers start to engage with your brand, your creative in stream, and via their remote. It doesn't just have to be via their mobile phone. And we can weave pre-existing brand assets into rich and dynamic ads, and that's real-time addressability specific to the viewer experience. Okay. So that was pretty much what I wanted to take you through today. I guess the conversation piece is, as we move into 2023, I want to make sure that the independent agency space are leading the way in terms of how they engage with eyeballs across the Seven platform, and particularly as we move towards a more converged approach. And having one point of contact for your group sales manager at Seven or myself, you can talk about how we engage for metropolitan TV, regional TV, all of our BVOD products, and even into New Zealand, if that is of benefit to your client. And certainly this now is the time with VOZ 5.0 launching for, I think, the independent agencies to lead in this space, because we're smaller, we're more nimble, and we don't have as many silos that need to be broken down as we start to think of holistic advertising budgets and connecting with audiences, rather than a siloed approach through with agencies that might have a digital platform and a traditional linear platform. So, Sam, that's it for the presentation. I'll open the floor to any questions if anyone wants to ask anything about that.
Thank you, my friend. We've got one here. The analysis is very impressive. Do you reckon the Seven trends are similar across the other networks, or just specific to Seven?
I'm assuming when you say the Seven trends, you mean the migration of eyeballs onto the BVOD product. Absolutely similar across all networks, is what we're seeing. And you can see all networks starting to move towards, in the upfronts, move towards more and more investment in their BVOD product, in their digital space. Probably the key difference is that Seven is the only network at this point that has a converged department, and is where and you would have seen, for those of you who saw the Converge Education series led by Alex Tansley, we're certainly trying to lead the way in education of the market, on how we want to think and engage differently. And we've led the way in terms of starting to measure the level of incrementality that's delivered across the two platforms. So yes, we're seeing similar trends. We're probably just at the forefront of being able to communicate that to the market. We're working on, there is a press release coming out. I won't mention the client because I'm not sure if it's public knowledge yet or not, but there is a major FMCG client that we're doing a case study on at the moment, which is all about what are the levels of incrementality, what's the cost per reach point across this particular FMCG client, and what key learnings do we take from that we can then make recommendations for other clients and how they might think about their converged approach. But the one thing I will say is, as we it's been a tough year, 2022, in terms of for all networks. It's been a tough year in terms of having conversations around audience migration and shortfalls. We need to follow those audiences, and we need to be where those eyeballs are. And I strongly believe that as we move into a world where we can start to measure and post-analyse that in early 2023, this needs to be at the forefront of everyone's thinking from a planning perspective.
Awesome. Guys, are there any other questions from anyone? I've got one. What's happening with your team and how you're structuring things, supporting the indies around Australia? What are you doing?
Okay, so for those of you, I've tried to get out and meet as much of the market as I can, but there's still, it is a big long tail, the direct indie space, which is where the power of the IMAA comes in, that, you know, I can in forums like this talk to everyone and manage to reach all eyeballs. What Seven are doing certainly from a how do we best you know, look after the direct and independent agency space is when the Prime merger came over. If you think logistically about, you know, to use Georgie Nichols, who's our Sydney sales director as an example, you know, she was Sydney sales director across Metro with a dotted line in from the digital space. If you then add regional on top, she was going to be more and more stretched. So we thought, well, where does the opportunity lie, and where do we really see our ability to add value to the market? Because we probably need to bring in some more heads to relieve that pressure. And that was the birth of my role, which is National Direct and Independent Agency Sales Director, to carve out all the direct and indies for both Sydney and Melbourne at this stage, and you know, give them a level of service and attention that we believed hadn't been there before. So that kind of gives the heightened opportunity. Then we thought about how do we structure the team to make it work best. And as we don't say to the market, this is how you should engage with us, but we're certainly gearing ourselves up to be one point of contact that can deliver Metro TV, regional TV, your digital your digital requirements as we move towards a converged trading approach. And for those who are advertising into New Zealand, also a New Zealand approach. And that's the role. It's one contact. And it was kind of exactly what you articulated to me when I took you out for that beautiful pizza, Sam, which is that clients in the independent agency space want less contacts that can do more for them and their business. And that's how we're trying to streamline our operations so that you make one phone call for all your Seven advertising needs.
Awesome. Guys, any other questions? And we can connect you, obviously, for those who don't know them, we can connect you and put you in contact with them post the meeting. All right, thank you for that wonderful lunch we had several months ago. Possibly the worst pizza I've ever had in my life. I'm still recovering from. Thank you, mate. Interesting to see what's happening over there. It's obviously an exciting time of the year. Thank you, members, for tuning in. Everyone enjoy Melbourne Cup Day tomorrow from Skeleton and myself. Have a wonderful day and wonderful week. Thank you again, Seven, for your partnership with the IMAA, keeping the lights on and keeping us moving. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Adam, Melissa Roberts, also from AdRoom, would like to talk to you more about New Zealand. Do you want me to connect you too?
That would be lovely.
Easy, not a problem. I'll send you both an email.
Right.
Okay, that would be great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I'll call you after, Sam.
All right, mate. Talk soon. Bye.